3. True Disturbing Rainy Night Alone. Story 1. I work night security at a storage facility on the edge of town. It's one of those jobs where 90% of the time, absolutely nothing happens. I mostly just sit in the office, do rounds every couple hours, and watch shows on my phone to pass the time. I've been doing this for about 8 months now. And honestly, the worst thing that ever happened before this was dealing with a raccoon that got into one of the units. The facility is pretty big, maybe 200 units spread across this fenced-in lot. Most are the standard walk-up garage-style units. But there's also a section of climate-controlled indoor units in a separate building. My shifts run from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., and I'm the only one there the entire time. This particular night started off completely normal. It was a Thursday, so even slower than usual. Around 11:30, rain started coming down. Not just a drizzle either. Within 20 minutes, it was absolutely pouring. The sound on the office roof was almost deafening. I was used to rain making the job feel more isolated, but it never really bothered me before. Something about being warm and dry inside while it poured outside was almost comforting. I made my first round at midnight, driving my cart between the rows of units with my raincoat on, just checking that all the locks looked secure and no gates were left open. Everything seemed fine. I got back to the office and settled in for what I assumed would be another quiet few hours. That's when I noticed something odd on the security monitor. We have cameras covering the main entrance and a few positioned throughout the lot. One of them, the one facing the back corner near the climate-controlled building, showed what looked like a light moving around. I rewound the footage and watched it again. Definitely a flashlight beam, sweeping back and forth between units. The timestamp showed it had started maybe 5 minutes before I noticed. Figured someone was probably just accessing their unit late, which wasn't uncommon. People stored all kinds of things and kept weird hours. But then I checked the entry log. Nobody had come through the main gate since 6 p.m. The gate requires a code to get in, and it automatically logs every entry. I pulled up the camera feed from the entrance and scrubbed back through the last few hours. No vehicles, no people, nothing. That light was still moving around back there, though. I watched it on the monitor for another minute, trying to figure out what I was seeing. Then it disappeared completely, like whoever was holding it had turned it off or gone inside one of the units. I grabbed my keys and flashlight and headed back out into the rain. The back section was maybe a 3-minute drive on the cart. As I got closer, I slowed down and turned off the cart's headlights, using just my flashlight. I don't know why I did that. Maybe some instinct telling me to be cautious. I came around the corner of the climate-controlled building and stopped. All the units in that section looked undisturbed. No lights, no movement, no sign anyone had been there. I got out and walked between the rows, shining my light on the locks. Everything appeared normal. Then I noticed one of the units about halfway down had wet footprints leading up to it. Fresh ones, barely starting to wash away in the rain. The lock was still in place, but when I looked closer, there were scratch marks around the latch that definitely weren't there during my earlier round. I stood there for maybe 30 seconds, rain hammering down, trying to decide what to do. The footprints didn't continue anywhere. They just led up to the unit and stopped, like whoever made them had either gone inside or just vanished. I radioed it into my supervisor, knowing he probably wouldn't answer at this hour. but wanting it documented anyway. While I was reporting it, I heard something metallic clang from somewhere nearby. I spun around, searching with my flashlight, but couldn't locate the source. The rain made it hard to pinpoint sounds. I decided to head back to the office and keep watching the cameras, maybe call the police non-emergency line to have them do a sweep. I was walking back to my cart when I saw it. Another unit, 3 rows over, with its door rolled up about 2 feet, just enough for someone to slip under. I approached slowly, my heart rate picking up. I called out, identifying myself as security, but got no response over the sound of the rain. I got close enough to crouch down and shine my light inside. The unit was packed with furniture, boxes stacked to the ceiling. I couldn't see much, but there was definitely space for someone to hide in there. That's when I noticed my cart was gone. I'd left it running about 50 feet back, and now it was just gone. I immediately started walking quickly back toward the office, no longer concerned with investigating. Someone was definitely in here with me, and they clearly knew I was alone. I kept my flashlight moving, checking behind me every few seconds. The office was maybe a 5-minute walk, and I made it in 3. Once inside, I locked the door and pulled up all the camera feeds. I spotted my cart almost immediately, parked behind one of the larger units on the opposite side of the facility from where I'd left it. I watched for about 10 minutes, but nobody appeared on any of the cameras. Whoever was out there knew exactly where the blind spots were. The police showed up about 40 minutes later and did a thorough search. They didn't find anyone, but they did find that unit with the rolled-up door and the one with the scratched lock. Both had been rented within the past month. Both paid in cash for 3 months up front, both under names that turned out to be fake when the police tried to follow up. I still worked there, but I requested to be moved to day shifts. They found my cart the next morning, right where I'd seen it on the camera, keys still in the ignition. What really gets me is that I never saw anyone on the footage. Not entering, not leaving, not moving the cart. It's like they knew every single camera angle and how to avoid them all. Makes me wonder how long they'd been watching before that night. Story 2. I'm a home health aide, which means I drive around to different clients' houses to help them with daily tasks they can't manage on their own. Most of my clients are elderly, and I usually work daytime shifts. But sometimes I pick up overnight shifts, because the pay is better, and honestly, I needed the money. This was about 6 months ago. I'd been assigned to a new overnight client I'd never met before. An older woman living alone in a house about 40 minutes outside the city. The agency gave me her address and basic information. 78 years old, mobility issues. Mostly just needed someone there in case of emergencies and to help her to the bathroom if needed. I showed up around 8 p.m., right as it was getting dark. The house was set back from the road, surrounded by tall pine trees. It was an older 2-story home, probably built in the 60s or 70s, with white siding that had seen better days. I knocked and waited. After maybe 30 seconds, I heard slow footsteps approaching, and the door opened. The woman, I'll call her Mrs. Patterson, seemed nice enough. Frail, soft-spoken, using a walker. She showed me around the first floor, living room, kitchen, her bedroom, which had been converted from what was probably a dining room, so she didn't have to use the stairs anymore. Everything seemed straightforward. She mentioned she usually went to bed early and that I was welcome to sleep on the couch or watch TV, whatever I wanted. Just keep my phone volume up in case she needed anything. She gave me the Wi-Fi password and shuffled off to her room around 9:30. I settled on the couch with my phone, and that's when the rain started. Just a light patter at first, then building into a steady downpour. The house was quiet except for the rain and the occasional creak, which is normal for old houses. I was scrolling through social media when I heard Mrs. Patterson call out. I went to her room, and she asked for help getting to the bathroom. This was normal, part of the job. I assisted her and got her back to bed. She thanked me, and I returned to the couch. This happened 2 more times over the next few hours, which seemed like a lot. But I figured maybe she had a medical condition that made her need to go frequently. The 3rd time, though, something felt off. When I helped her back to bed, I noticed she kept glancing toward her bedroom window. The curtains were drawn, but she was staring at them like she was watching something. I asked if everything was okay, and she just nodded quickly and told me good night. I went back to the living room, but now I felt uneasy. I started paying more attention to the sounds of the house. Around 1 a.m., I heard what sounded like footsteps upstairs. Heavy ones, definitely not what you'd expect from an empty floor with old wood settling. I tried to rationalize it. Old houses make noise, could be anything. But then I heard it again, and this time it sounded like someone was walking the length of the hallway up there. I got up and stood at the bottom of the staircase, listening. Nothing for about a minute, then one loud creak, like someone had stepped on a particularly weak board. I considered going up there to check, but something told me not to. Instead, I went to Mrs. Patterson's room and gently knocked. She told me to come in, and I asked her if anyone else lived here, or if anyone else had keys to the house. She looked at me strangely and said no. She lived alone, and her daughter had the only other key but lived 3 hours away. I mentioned the noises upstairs, and her expression changed. She got this look that was hard to read, maybe fear, maybe resignation. She said the house made sounds sometimes, and not to worry about it. But the way she said it made me more worried, not less. I asked her directly if she felt safe here. If there was something going on I should know about. She was quiet for a long moment, then said something I wasn't expecting. Just stay down here with me. Don't go upstairs. The upstairs isn't safe right now. I asked her what she meant, but she refused to elaborate. Just kept insisting I stay on the 1st floor. I didn't know what to do. I considered calling my supervisor, but what would I even say? The client told me not to go upstairs. I decided to stay in the hallway between her room and the living room, where I could keep an eye on both the stairs and her door. Another hour passed. The rain had gotten worse, coming down hard enough that I could barely hear anything else. Then the power went out. Completely dark except for the dim glow from my phone. I turned on my flashlight and checked on Mrs. Patterson. She was awake, lying in bed, and she looked terrified. She whispered to me, "Is he still up there?" I asked her who she meant, and she just shook her head. I was about to press her for more information when I heard it. A door opening upstairs. Definitely a door, with that distinct sound of the latch releasing and hinges creaking. Then footsteps coming down the stairs. Slow, deliberate steps, one at a time. I backed into Mrs. Patterson's room and quietly closed the door. My hands were shaking as I locked it. I called 911, whispering that someone was in the house. The footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs and stopped. I could hear breathing on the other side of the door. Heavy, raspy breathing. Then the doorknob started to turn. Thank God I'd locked it. The person on the other side tried it 3 times, then stopped. We sat in complete silence for what felt like forever, but was probably only a few minutes. Then I heard the footsteps moving away, toward the kitchen. The sound of the back door opening and closing. I waited another 5 minutes before calling 911 again to update them. Police arrived maybe 15 minutes later and searched the entire house. They found the back door unlocked and open, and upstairs they found clear evidence someone had been staying in one of the bedrooms. Blankets, food wrappers, empty water bottles. One of the officers asked Mrs. Patterson how long this had been going on. She finally admitted that she'd noticed signs for about 2 weeks. Things moved around, sounds at night. She thought she was imagining it at first, then got too scared to check upstairs herself, and too embarrassed to tell anyone that someone might be living in her own house without her knowing. Turned out it was a homeless man who'd been breaking in through a basement window and hiding upstairs during the day, only coming down at night when he thought she was asleep. He was never found, at least not while I was still getting updates on the case. I finished out that shift once the police cleared the house, but I never took another overnight assignment. Mrs. Patterson moved in with her daughter a week later. I don't blame her. Story 3. I was driving back from visiting my brother upstate, probably a 6-hour drive total. I'd left later than I meant to, around 7 p.m., thinking I'd just push through and be home by 1 a.m. or so. I'd made this drive plenty of times and knew the route well. Mostly highway, pretty straightforward. About 2 hours in, the weather started turning. The forecast had mentioned possible rain, but I didn't think much of it. It started as a drizzle, then within 20 minutes turned into a heavy, steady rain. Visibility got bad enough that I decided to take a break rather than push through it. I pulled off at a rest area, one of those small ones with just bathrooms and a couple vending machines. There were only 2 other vehicles in the lot. A semi-truck parked way in the back and a sedan on the opposite end from where I parked. I sat in my car for a few minutes, checking my phone and waiting to see if the rain would let up. It didn't. If anything, it got worse. I figured I'd use the restroom and maybe grab something from the vending machine, then decide whether to wait it out or just deal with the slow drive home. I made a run for the building, getting soaked in the process. The rest area was pretty dated. Fluorescent lights humming, tile floors that had seen better days, that institutional smell of industrial cleaner. I used the restroom, and when I came out, I noticed a man standing by the vending machines. Older guy, maybe in his 60s, wearing a rain jacket. He gave me a nod, and I nodded back. I got a water bottle from the machine and was about to head back to my car when the man spoke. "Pretty bad out there," he said, gesturing toward the rain. I agreed, made some small talk about the weather. He seemed friendly enough, asked where I was heading. I kept it vague, just said I was on my way home. He mentioned he was waiting out the storm too, and that's when I noticed something odd. He didn't have any bags with him. No backpack, no keys visible, nothing. And when I glanced out the window toward the parking lot, I couldn't figure out which vehicle was his. The semi seemed like it had to belong to someone else based on how it was parked. And the sedan had been there when I arrived. I started to feel uneasy but didn't want to be rude, so I just said I should get going and headed for the door. He called out after me, "Drive safe out there. It's supposed to get worse before it gets better." Something about the way he said it made me glance back. He was watching me with this expression I couldn't quite read. I got back to my car and sat there for a minute, trying to shake off the weird feeling. I told myself I was being paranoid. Just some guy waiting out the rain, nothing sinister about it. I pulled up my phone to check the weather radar, and that's when I saw him through my rain-streaked windshield. He was standing just outside the rest area building, getting absolutely drenched, just staring at my car, not trying to hide it or anything. Just standing there in the pouring rain, watching. I immediately started my car and pulled out of the parking spot. As I drove toward the exit, I checked my rearview mirror. He was walking toward where I'd been parked. I got back on the highway, heart pounding, telling myself I'd overreacted. But I couldn't stop checking my mirrors. About 10 minutes down the road, I noticed headlights behind me. Just one car, maintaining the same distance. I sped up a little. They sped up. I slowed down. They slowed down. I tried to tell myself it was coincidence. Same highway, same direction. Maybe they were just going the same speed. But this went on for probably 20 minutes, and they never got closer or farther away. Never tried to pass, even though the left lane was clear. I decided to test it. There was an exit coming up in about a mile. At the last second, I swerved onto the exit ramp. The car behind me did the same thing. My stomach dropped. The exit led to a small 2-lane road with nothing around, just trees and darkness and rain. I had no idea where this road went. But I kept driving, trying to figure out what to do. Call the police? And say what? Someone's following me? I didn't even have a good description of the vehicle. I could barely see it through the rain and darkness. I thought about trying to lose them on the back roads, but I didn't know the area and was afraid of getting stuck somewhere even more isolated. Then I saw lights up ahead. A gas station, thank God. It looked open. I pulled in and parked directly in front of the building under the brightest lights. The car that had been following me slowed down as it passed the gas station, but didn't pull in. I watched it continue down the road until the taillights disappeared. I sat there shaking, debating what to do. Part of me wanted to just wait there all night if I had to. But I needed to get home, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they might come back. After about 15 minutes, I got gas even, though I didn't really need it. Just to have an excuse to be there longer and to be visible to the attendant inside. Finally, I got back on the road. I took a different route home, one that added almost an hour to my drive, but stayed on busier highways. I kept checking my mirrors obsessively the entire way. I never saw that car again. When I got home, I realized my hands were still trembling as I tried to unlock my door. The rational part of my brain tried to suggest maybe it really was just someone going the same direction who happened to take the same exit. But the part of me that had seen that man standing in the rain, staring at my car, knows better. I've driven that route a dozen times since then, always during the day now. I've never stopped at that rest area again. and I probably never will.